everybody knew that if Victor Cowart said, I'm going to do it, it would get done. A handshake, he didn't need a contract. And I think while in today's world, we need contracts because we have to protect ourselves in the litigious environment that we're in, that integrity and that those values of trust and honesty, they come through, and people don't work with you because you have the best contract that protects them and protects you. They work with you because they can trust you.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Creasa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
Well, hey there, friend. It's Michael Creasa here, the host of Builder Straight Talk, and welcome to this week's episode. Now, I had the distinct pleasure of having a conversation with Daniel Kennerly, and he's a partner at Alair Orlando. And if you're not familiar with Alair Homes, they're a franchise specializing in custom home builds. Pretty fascinating story. But in this episode, our conversation was based around the new American home for 2026. And if you're not familiar with this, oh my gosh, this will be on display at the International Build Show in Orlando in February. Let me give you some teasers about this place. Think Florida and underground parking. Like those two don't go together. But this particular home has an underground parking garage that has 12-foot ceilings. Okay, so imagine that, underground, 12 feet. Not only that, when you drive your little car downstairs, it can actually hold 12 carts, but it's got a turntable. So the car drives down, turntable rotates the car, and then it has rows or stacks that you can actually stack your cars. I mean, holy jumping. That's just one of the tantalizing little things on this project. But the conversation, we talked about leadership, his love of family, faith, and so many other things. It was just a great conversation. So before we get started, one thing I have to ask, pretty please, subscribe to the podcast. Even if you don't like it, subscribe, because I need your help so we can cut through all the noise that's out there. So take a moment, subscribe, like, and comment on this episode. And once again, it's with Daniel Kennerly of Alair Homes of Orlando. I know you're going to like it. All right, Daniel, I feel like I know you better than I did the first time we met. It's almost like we've done this before. Call it
That's
deja
right.
vu. Yeah. It's almost like we were recording and everything collapsed and now we're doing a take two, but such is life. So let's take it back to the beginning. And I'll bore you with the introduction because I've
That's
already asked you
okay.
these questions, but then I'll make stuff up as we go. Once upon a time, there's this young lad named Daniel. He's a sixth generation Floridian. He's
That's right.
riding horses in the backcountry, raising cattle, doing all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Take us to that point once upon a time, and then how you left the ranch, got into financing, and ultimately became the juggernaut of a builder you are today.
It's interesting. Like, I had a very unique experience growing up. I was able to grow up on a large cattle ranch. We ran cattle on over 10,000 acres, but it was way out in the middle of nowhere. You didn't have friends that you could walk to their house. And so I grew up working with my dad, my uncles, and my grandfather every day when I'd get home from work or all summers. It was just amazing because it was unique, and I didn't know I was missing, riding around on my bicycle in the neighborhood after school, but that was what was normal to me. And it instilled some amazing values, I think, that drive me today, and values of hard work, integrity. My grandfather, one of the greatest things I remember about him is that everybody knew that if Victor Cowart said, I'm going to do it, it would get done. A handshake, he didn't need a contract. And I think while in today's world, we need contracts because we have to protect ourselves in the litigious environment that we're in, that integrity and that those values of trust and honesty, they come through, and people don't work with you because you have the best contract that protects them and protects you. They work with you because they can trust you. I didn't know it at the time, but those values that were instilled in me as a young man, as a boy, as a young man, have just been incredibly impactful in my life, and have, far beyond a ranch, finance, construction, high-end construction. They have been the foundation that has probably given me more than anything else that I can think of in my life.
Yeah, I don't think that's a point that we can pass over too lightly. There's something about when you shake somebody's hand and you look them in the eye, you get that feeling right
Yes,
away. Is this somebody I can trust? It's visceral, but it's almost innate in our DNA.
it
If
is.
I would say growing up on the farm, you talked about your grandfather and integrity. I think the one point that you missed is self-reliance because he
Oh,
said when something's going to
yeah.
get done, he's going to do it. But that's instilled in
That's
you
right.
because I'm willing to bet that your word is your bond. We don't hear that
Absolutely.
expression too often, but
No,
you'll
we
get it
don't
done
anymore.
regardless because you wrote the check with your words.
That's right. It's interesting. Our contract actually has a 2-year warranty on our homes. In fact, about 6 months ago, I have a client that we built a home for in 2017, 7, 8 years ago, and he asked if I could help him out with something, and I worked out a time with him and dropped by his house, and we worked through an issue he was having in his house. He wasn't expecting me to pay for it necessarily because it wasn't something that we had done wrong, but that bond of, you stand behind what you do. You develop relationships with these people. That is how, one, you create trust in people, and two, it's how you get or how you engender more business because if someone ever asks him, "Who should I build with?" He's gonna be like, "This guy built my house 8 years ago," and I call him and he answers or calls me back within 24 hours, and people don't realize that you in high-end or custom construction, you're with a client for 9 to 18 months. You develop friendships in that time. They know who you are. If there's anything outstanding in your character, they're gonna see it in a year and a half. The way that you really handle those relationships well is you have to be somebody trustworthy and they find it out if you're not. It's just amazing what I feel like the foundation of that. I didn't know that that foundation was being built in me, but I look back and now and I can say, man, sure, were there hard times? Were there times I didn't want to do what I was asked to do that my grandfather and uncles and father got mad at me for trying something new or doing something that I thought and didn't follow their instructions? Absolutely. But just that constant example of that, it creates that in you because you want to, the people that you look up to, you want to emulate and it comes through. When I meet clients, I can tell, maybe not right off the bat who they are, subcontractors, bankers, financiers, you get a feel for who you work with in every aspect of the job. And I think having those intrinsic qualities allow you to see them in others.
I think it's important to state that even though your price point with the custom homes you do are
Right.
like in excess of 5, 6, $7 million. So the
Absolutely.
relationship you have with these people, you're almost part of their family. And I would almost
Yes.
think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, their expectations are probably a lot more discerning, a lot more harder to please, being politely, than somebody, a
Yes.
builder that's catering to a clientele that may be between five and $700,000 homes. But your
It is.
word is the same. Like and you have to believe that what you're doing is right for
That's
that
right.
multi-million dollar client, or because you're building a castle either way. A stage is castle, but whatever, a man's home is his castle. So you've got to
That's
follow
right.
through with that.
The majority of our jobs we have 6 to 7 jobs a year, and the majority of them, I would say 4 to 5 of them are in the $1 to $4 million price range, and then we usually have 1, maybe 2 jobs above that. You never get it right. You're dealing with, creating a plan with 1,000 moving parts that you're trying to tell a client exactly what they're gonna expect at the end of this plan, especially with budget. And we have a pre-construction process that we've developed to really hone in on that and narrow down what we do to give the client the least discrepancy between what we start off at and what we end at. But we miss sometimes. One of the things that you made me think of as you say that is there's a very specific time on a very big house that we missed and we missed big. And you learn the biggest lessons from the times that you make the biggest mistakes. We ended up being $3.5 million over budget. On a $8 million house, 3.5 million over budget is 40% over budget. Now, we were blessed with a phenomenal client, but when we sat down and truly dug into why we had missed so far on that project, I will say that the client said to me afterwards, he said, "Daniel, I have the money to pay this. I just wasn't expecting it. And after sitting down and talking to you and just knowing who you are, I truly believe that, we couldn't have avoided this. That trust that a client gives you, that if you handle it well, even in a situation where you make a huge mistake, that trust comes through, and if you have a client that recognizes that and understands that, it's amazing how that can help mitigate even mistakes that you make on a project. And so,
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. $3 million. Did you build it in the wrong part of Florida? Like, what did you do?
no, no, we had a pretty unique project that wasn't something that was done before. We also had some contributions to the to the project, because the client was giving to philanthropy. We couldn't have expected the groundswell of support that came. And with all of the products that were donated, it ended up increasing the actual construction and work that needed to be done for all of those projects to be integrated into the home. The client to this day says, you know, I couldn't have anticipated it either, and I don't know how you could have, but I trust you, and I know that we're getting it done for the best price we can possibly get it done for. We still have a great relationship to this day, which is
That's
awesome.
great. I'm still trying to get over the fact that, okay, I appreciate Daniel. It was a $3 million mistake, but yeah, I've got that here in my right pocket.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that. The turnaround wasn't that quick. It was a tense 30 days figuring out, why and understanding the process. But yeah, it was, looking
It
back,
was a learning experience.
it was a learning.
Let's put it under learning. Okay.
Yes, yes,
Let's
yes.
rewind this a bit. So you've gone from, I keep teasing you about being on the ranch, but to me, I think that's where it
Right.
all starts, obviously. You
Hmm.
go to university, right? And I was teasing you
Right.
earlier about counting cows to counting money. So logical
Yes,
progression into finance. You
that's right.
graduate with a degree. Tell us how you made that arc. How did you cross the
Yep.
bridge from finance now to building?
So it was interesting. The ranch really, I would say, interestingly enough, gave me the desire to know more about finance. Growing up on a ranch that had been in the family in the same place for over 100 years, my grandfather was amazing, but he had graduated high school in a high school that had a class of 3 people. He knew the way his father and his grandfather and his great grandfather had done it. And so while it was a big ranch, he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And I always felt like it could be done better. Like, I would tell him, "Papa, we can figure out how to do this. There are ways that we can, financially help the ranch run better." And I'm a high schooler. He doesn't trust me, right? But I have these financial principles that I'm reading about, and I'm gaining more and more knowledge about. And so it really created an idea of, hey, how can we do this better in the future so that this ranch can persist for another 6 generations, And so it really created an interest in finance. The ranch was barely supporting 4 families. And so I knew that I needed to go, make my own way in the world. A degree in finance seemed a great way to do that. That led to a career in finance for a period of time, but then a desire that this wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to be back in somehow in industry where I was creating value, where I was doing something with my hands, building, developing. And so I went from managing a company to joining with a friend of mine who had been in commercial land development. His father had retired, and we'd always talked about working together. And he said, this was in 2009. He said, "Come work with me and let's build this company back up again after my dad retires." And I said, "Sweet, let's do it." And so we both, you know, went all in on this endeavor. And it was at the bottom of the market. There were tons of foreclosures. And we started raising capital to buy foreclosed homes and rehab them with construction, obviously, and either flip them or turn them into rentals for investors. As we were doing this, BlackRock came in and said, "Hey, we have a line of credit from the Federal Reserve, and we're going to buy thousands of homes in 18 cities across the United States." And we interviewed with them to be the developer in Orlando that ran their program, but they chose another group. We said, "Hey, you chose somebody else, but they can't do it all. We'd love to source homes for you and rehab them because we're already doing it on a smaller scale." And so over the next 2 years, we sourced over 1,000 homes for them. They bought over 5,000 homes in Orlando, and we sourced over 1,000 of those and rehabbed over 200 of them. And so we created a real estate brokerage and a construction company. It's interesting how business morphs, right? knowing a little bit about the financial world, we knew that source of capital was going to turn off just as fast as it turned on. Those are levers. Those are not turn on and off faucets. And so we started thinking about how do we persist in business after this lever shuts off. And so my friend created a brokerage and I created a construction company. So he started pursuing brokerage related business and I started pursuing construction related business, rehabs, custom homes. Both of my uncles were carpenters and I grew up on the ranch also building homes. It was a natural progression to seek out this area of business again. And so started signing business in 2010, 2012, and eventually grew the business in 2 years to the private equity side of the business was only bringing in about 25% of our work. And the remodel and custom home business was bringing in 75% of our work. And when that dried up completely in 2012, we had a business that could keep going because we had 75% of our work coming from residential clients building custom homes and doing remodel work.
I call it a paid education because you're being
Yes.
paid by BlackRock to do this. You're doing high-end custom homes, gold
Yes.
toilet seats. Like, yeah, I'm exaggerating a bit here, but
Right, right, right.
in
That's what
essence, where
people
you are
think
right,
of.
yeah, where you are
Yeah,
right now, infinity is
right.
basically your only limitation, right?
It is.
What did you learn from what you were doing with the fix and flip? Because you must have
Mm,
streamlined what you were doing. You could have been too exorbitant in what you
absolutely.
were doing. So, was there a takeaway from that experience that you now use with your high-end customs?
Oh, great question. To be honest, that drove what we're doing now because to make money in a high churn environment, your margins have to be tight. Like there can't be bleed in those because it just ruins, your margins are really small and you're making money because you have volume. But what that made me realize was that, I knew a lot of contractors. I knew contractors growing up. I knew small business people. And it's sad to say, but finance is usually the last area they're skilled in. They have an idea, they start a business, they work in construction, they want to start their own construction company. And the financial aspect is usually the weak point of their business. And as I recognized that to make money with private equity funding, we had to be really tight in everything that we did. We had to make sure we knew what every screw cost, what every nail cost, what every board, what every 2x4 cost, and how much it cost to install each one of those things, how much it cost to paint, exact numbers. I basically recognized that and started realizing that if we were going to do this in residential construction and design, build, construction, we could make more money, we could do better financially, make a better margin if we could produce a product with our client that our client had confidence in the financial aspect of it. So many times a client in residential remodels and new builds trusts a contractor and then at the end of the project the finances are just totally askew. You don't know where this money went to. The contractor has a hard time pulling all the information. You ask him to gather the invoices and he's like, well, I've got paper invoices here and here and let me pull this one from under the cabinet. So really I took that finance background and I said, we're going to do this and we're going to do it in a completely transparent manner. As we were working to build that transparent background in our construction company, we were, frankly, Alair heard about us in Orlando and somebody gave us a call. And as we talked to them more, we realized that Alair had actually built a background software to track everything that we were trying to use Builder Trend, Excel, QuickBooks to do in like 5 different areas. And what I loved about Alair that Alair brought to the table was the ability to scale what I was trying to do and keep the transparency that we were trying to offer to our clients.
So,
And
did it help consolidate everything that you were trying to
oh,
do then? Like they had a system then?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, yes. They had developed a system that I had been trying to build, but without a background in, frankly, computer science and coding and software development. I was trying to do it. A finance guy is not a software development guy. You know where you need to go, but you don't have the skills to develop back end software to get there. Alair brought a way to consolidate that with the software that they had developed and allow me to scale in the way that I felt like we could actually scale. And I would say across the Alair network of 110 contractors, the biggest opportunity that it allows for a contractor is for us to be able to scale, for us to be able to apply both financial and transparent business principles to the construction world so that we can actually focus on lead generation, on project management. And we know that the back end software which is where we need the most help is taken care of, and that we have a whole group that's helping us to create that opportunity for our business to truly scale what we can do so that we can focus on the important things that are actually
So
building the business.
let me unpack this for a minute, Daniel.
Absolutely.
And talk to me like I'm six here. So
No,
Alair
yeah,
is
absolutely.
they're a franchise then, correct?
That's right. That's
And
correct.
so you become a franchisee. So you're putting
You
money on
do?
the table to almost like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm buying the recipe. I get to put the kernel up on my signs and stuff like that. So what is
That's
it
right.
that they're giving you as a builder? Now you talked about consolidation, but
Right.
what else are they in that bag of goodies that you open up once you've been
Right.
accepted into the franchise? And I take it then I'm throwing a lot of questions at you at the
No,
same
no,
time.
the great,
Are
great
you
questions.
uh, are you buying a franchise like you would? Are you paying a
You
percentage? Are you now
you do.
obligated to buy their stuff? Like unpack this as a builder that may be thinking about following you on the same path.
Exactly. Alair is a very interesting franchise model because you're not obligated to buy anything from Alair per se. The franchise license that you buy is actually really the back end support on the financial and project management side of the programs that are online. You can still build whatever you want. You can buy product from whoever you want. We have builders in a network that do condo remodels in Atlanta, that do investment homes in Los Angeles, California. From Montreal to Vancouver to Cincinnati, Ohio, we have builders that actually do all different types of construction. What's really interesting is that, as a builder in Orlando, Florida, we build high-end residential. We do average 6 jobs a year, probably 2 or 3 high-end remodels, $1 to $2 million remodels, and then 2 to 3 high-end builds, $1 to $10 million custom home builds. So we're doing about $10 million a year. Well, Sherwin-Williams, Kohler, LG, Home Depot, to be perfectly honest, they don't care that we're doing $10 million a year. We're a very small fish in a very, very big pond. But when you have 110 contractors across the United States that will do more than
Economies of scale. Yeah, exactly.
$400 million a year in total business, we now have accounts with Sherwin-Williams, with Home Depot, with LG, with Kohler that we get preferred pricing. We get pricing that competes with commercial paint contractors with Sherwin-Williams because of the network that Sherwin can now sell into. What's really great is you still get to run your business exactly like you've always wanted to run your business. You just get to focus on the really fun parts that as a contractor, no one starts a construction company to be a finance guy. You know, you start a construction company because you love building, because you like working with clients that you can realize their dreams and visions. And, you get to build unique stuff with everything that you do. You don't do it because you want to, do spreadsheets and sheets and balance sheets. You're trying to build. And so Alair offers an opportunity so that I can do what I want to. Like, I love that I have the finance background, but I really enjoy building. It allows me to leverage that financial background. And even if I don't have that background, I can leverage their back end software that allows me to scale a construction business so that I can take on more work, so that I can
Okay, so
hire.
let me jump on that, Daniel. So you're
Yeah,
cruising around your big brand new Denali truck, because that's what high-end builders do. There isn't a
right.
scratch or
You have
blemish
to,
on it.
you have to
So
look the part.
yeah, so from that perspective, I understand that they have everything, the software. Okay, I get
Mhm.
that. Is part of what they're doing, back a lack of a better perspective, I think in pictures, hub and
Yeah,
spoke. Are they actually
right.
handling them, the back end for you? Like they'll do the accounting, the billing, or are you doing that using their software?
That's a great question. It's actually a combination of the 2. So a back-end software company could never do all of the billing that we need to do because we have client relationships that we have to actually explain and talk about the billing process to our clients. The client actually has a portal that they can log into and see what we're building the budget, as well as the costs that come in as you build. And so they can actually watch their house built on site, the sticks and bricks of their house, and they can watch their house built online in the dollars and invoices that come in. And
That's
so,
pretty cool. So it's an accountability timeline. They can actually see
big
where you
time.
are. Wow.
Yep, absolutely. And honestly, like the house that we're building for the International Builder Show, our client, what drew him to us was one, the personal connections and the referrals that we had from previous clients, but also the ability to track a, $10 million custom home build. That's a lot of money going out that a client who frankly has done well in life, you don't get to that point without knowing your finances, and for a client of that nature to be able to track their dollars, their team to be able to see how that money is being spent on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis, that creates a unique opportunity for us to sign these jobs that are pivotal jobs for both us in Orlando and Alair as a whole.
We're going to talk about that more, the new American home. Let's just pin that for a second. I'll come back to it.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the relationship with money because you started off doing the
Yes.
fix and flips and then
Right.
you segued into remodeling and then high end. I want to
Mhm.
get into that aspect of your relationship with money. And
It's a
because
good.
there's so many builders that are listening in, they want to do what you do. They're looking, with the big shiny cape and then the Denali, as I was teasing you
Right.
about. How
Yeah.
do I get there? And I think the one thing that you said
Uh,
that still intrigues me, the mistake of $3 million. Well, it's not like you put a zero in the wrong place. When I look at builders that are trying to make that segue, they don't have a relationship with money because they're excellent builders. They're great at orchestrating and getting everything else, but that's the sore spot, right? And it seems that where they fall down, and when they get some money, let's say when they're ready, and for whatever reason they
mhm.
either do their own funding, probably not. They get investors, or maybe the bank has stepped up and said, "Okay, we're going to give you a try." Suddenly, there's all this money available, but it's
Yes.
how do they manage that money? So I want to dig into that relationship. Like, at what point did you realize that we can scale this and instead of doing
Yes.
maybe one at a time? Now, you're in a rare situation because your price point is so high, which means your profit per each house is that much higher. But let's focus on the guys that are doing infill or they're doing spec. Maybe they're around
Yep.
500,000. What's
Well,
your
Michael,
words of wisdom to them, Daniel?
yeah. One thing that I was gonna say is your profit is higher dollars wise, but percentage wise, it's not necessarily higher. And so with these bigger projects, your risk actually is the same. Your risk scales with the size of project. And so, instead of asking for a $70,000 draw, I'm asking for a $700,000 draw. And so, size of business, I actually don't think that the small contractors are frankly realizing any different risk than what you would consider as a large custom home contractor. Because if you're a small contractor, let's say you're doing 100 to $300,000 remodels, or even you're doing 25,000 to $150,000 remodels. You know, the cash flow in your business is smaller, but you have smaller projects. At the end of the month, your money in your bank could come down to a couple $1,000s once you pay your employees, once you pay your subcontractors. And so it becomes really important that you monitor your cash flows, that you are making sure that you have great subcontractor agreements and that your subcontractors understand that when they finish the work, you have to bill your client and that they will get paid. They'll have a 10 to 14-day payment schedule because you have to be on it in billing your client. You have to know that, this much work is going to finish on October 12th. And I know that I have to then submit that work to my client to get paid so that I'm not using a draw from another job to pay the costs for this job.
So
And
let me jump on that one, Daniel. Has there ever been a
yeah,
situation where you're relying on the draw because now you've got to pay your trades, whatever it is that you have to make that payment at the end of that week, that month,
yes,
whatever. And for whatever reason, because you're working with the home owner, obviously,
That's right.
they say, "Oh, hold on, we just missed our mark, or we have to postpone. We don't have the money there this week, but it's
Yes.
coming next week." Has there ever been that
Right.
kind of horror story for you?
Yes. Yes, there has. There's a couple things that I would say that we have done to mitigate that because, to be honest, it's not a horror story. It happens more often than you would think. There are two really big things that we have done in our business to mitigate that risk because we knew that those things would happen. And especially with banks in smaller jobs, frankly, in the jobs that are $1 to $2 million plus, you don't always have a lot of financing. Those are a lot of cash jobs. But the jobs between $100,000 and 1.5 million, very often there is a bank, a construction or a construction to perm loan or a HELOC that requires you to submit something to a bank, get that approved, get that inspected, and then the bank still takes 24 to 48 hours. And that can be a 2 week process to get that money, to pay your subcontractors and that. And so the advice that I would give that we followed that created an opportunity for us to grow past that and not be hamstrung in those times was that we kept cash in the business. We did not take cash out of the business at every chance we had. We said, you know what? We're going to take 10 years to build this company and we're going to have a long term view of building our company. And so we're going to take a small salary. We're going to live on that. We're going to plan for living on that. And the money that we make is going to stay in the business so that we can weather those times. We also would look at getting a business line of credit from a local bank so that if we ran into one of those and somehow or another we didn't have enough cash, that we could have a quick opportunity to have a business line of credit that we could pull out. And then when that draw came in, we could pay back. And then we actually had relationships with an outside financing group that offered credit to us. We never took advantage of it, but we had an approval for it should we have ever needed it. I think in your podcast, I've actually heard that you have a group that does something similar to that. I don't actually know the specifics of it.
Yeah, so that would be so our parent company, which is Sound Capital. They're the one that
Hmm.
keeps the lights on, and my wife in clean socks and underwear. So
I love it.
yay, Sound Capital. But the thing that makes them interesting, they're not a bank, they're a private fund,
They're a private
which
lender. Oh,
means that
okay.
so they have a lot of latitude then. They're
Hmm.
not under the same rules and regulations as a bank, let's say that.
That's
And the
nice.
criteria would be a builder that has built 10 homes in his name, has Title
Hmm.
II, credit score above 160, at least, I think 168, and no criminal record, right? And after they've been approved once, then getting approved the second time, all the paperwork or the hoops are done. I like to tease these guys about, well, they'll put money in a sack and leave it in a telephone booth and say, Daniel, it's ready for you to pick up. But the
That's
real
nice.
crucial point is when they guarantee the funds, they actually guarantee the funds. The money's put in escrow. So getting
Oh,
back
wow.
to that fear factor of I won't be able to make my draw. No, that won't happen because the money's there. Now,
The
obviously,
money's
they'll
there.
send out somebody to make sure
The
you're
work is
drawing
done.
because the framing is done. Yeah, the guy's going to
Right.
come out, but they're not going to look at every nail and look for excuses to delay
Hmm.
it because their philosophy is, look, if you're successful, Daniel, we're successful because we don't make money unless you do. And if
That's
you're
right.
happy with the process, and this goes back to what you're doing with the high end homes, we're
Hmm.
building the relationship. And that
Right.
relationship is predicated on trust and
Yes.
commitment. We're committed to you, we trust you, and we're going to carry through. And so their clients, like literally, they come on if you invite them to do so
Hmm.
as a CFO, and they'll give you an objective third eye. And this is kind of important because when you're doing the flip and fix and flips,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be the same as when you bought a lot and now everything's on you and you're all
That's right.
emotionally charged and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be our statement. What they'll do is sit down and go, Daniel, did you realize that there are dragons waiting in the weeds? And you'll go,
Yes. Big
what
time.
are you talking about? And they'll lay out things that they see, not to talk you out of it, but objectively, have you considered these things? And then
Right.
when you look at what that third set of eyes, they can also offer different options from a financing perspective that you
Hmm.
never thought of that may get the project done quicker or more profitable. So I know
That's
this sounds
great.
like an infomercial, but this is what they do.
No,
And
no.
that's what builders are missing, that idea that, okay, the funding is taken care of. I don't have to worry about this. Now I can focus on what I do best, which is the
That's
build.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, To get your contractor's license, Florida is an extremely hard state to get your contractor's license in. Frankly, it's one of the hardest states in the United States. The finance aspect of getting your contractor's license is, for lack of a better word, simple. It doesn't really go into training or teaching a contractor about financing. It's more of, you know, knowing just how to do your books. I think it's one of the I have a unique background in that I came from finance, but I am the vast minority in construction. Most people have no financial background. And these are the things that contractors could be so much more successful for if they had someone helping them. I mean, Michael, I don't know if you know some of the really deep numbers of construction. Normal contractors in the custom home and remodeling world operate on a 3 to 4 on average percent profit margin. They should be operating on a 10 to 12% profit margin. And most of that happens because of bad financial management. It's not because they build a bad product. They build it phenomenally. They're great contractors. They just don't know how to manage the finances of everything, that goes along with that.
Well, it's not their core competency. That's the thing.
That's right. That's
The
right.
fear is you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
despite that, they charge into the breach trying to do the best they can,
Mm.
and
Yes.
so having an objective third party, again, like a sound capital is perfect. The
Mhm.
one thing you said about banks, for example, and you probably know this now, banks are tightening up on the lending
Oh,
that
big
they're
time.
doing because the Fed has stepped in and said, yeah, hold on, guys, you're over leveraged in certain portfolios, which is builds.
Yes.
The other thing, and I just found this out the other day, and it kind of blew my little mind that when you approach a bank for funding, they've got their list, Mr. Drysdale twirling his mustache, and there's a checklist. They'll actually delay applications on purpose because they don't want to fund, they can't fund, but they're delaying it because internally they can show that, yes, we took in an application, but we denied that. No, we didn't deny
Yes.
it, but it was self denied because the builder just got so frustrated, walked away. But
Absolutely.
that's still a bonus point for the banks. And I never realized that. They're not out there
That's
to
right.
help as many builders as possible. I'm going to do another soundbite here. I love saying soundbite. They've got this big, hairy, audacious goal, and this will tie into what you're doing with your Jonathan project and also new homes. The big,
Yes,
hairy,
sir.
audacious goal is they want to be able to fund 1,000,000 doors in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And they're looking for builders to come on board because there is such a demand for
Mhm.
homes right now. And I don't want to say
Absolutely.
affordable, attainable homes. I mean, it's a buzzword,
Attainable
but it
homes.
means the same
Yes.
thing. And so they're looking for guys like you, like, how do we get behind this project? And it's no different than putting a man on the moon when Kennedy said, we're
Mhm.
going to do it in 5 years, and they did it in 4.5, right?
Right.
Like the technology wasn't there yet, but they made it happen. And I'm looking at guys like you. You've got that commitment, you've got that work ethic. That would be a perfect partner. I'll get off my pulpit now. Let's switch.
That's quite all right.
Yeah, but just so you know, I've already dropped the hook there. Let's get into we. So let's recap. We talked about humble beginnings, right?
Yes.
Finance guy, flip and flip. That got you into doing custom. Custom
Correct.
introduced you to the guys at Alair. Alair loves you like the prodigal son. Let's get into this passion project. Well, I don't want to say passion project. Let's go
Right.
into the New American Home Project because this thing
Absolutely.
just rocks my mind. Tell us about this. It's going to be at the International Build Show, which is
Yes.
coming up in February. Unpack that for
Yes.
me.
This was a project that we were actually working on the initial aspects of the project with the client. A 16,000 square foot house in Florida. Part of that 16,000 square feet is almost a 7,000 square foot underground basement. Absolutely unheard of in Florida. As we were planning the project and kind of working through with the architect, the design, the different aspects of the build, the client was looking for ways to also highlight some other projects that he has. Our client is phenomenal. He developed self driving car technology. He likes to say that in creating the business that he created and the financial windfall that he had when it went public, that was his reputation building phase of his life. And he feels like he's entered more into the legacy building phase of his life now. And he's always looking for ways to, frankly, grow that legacy of what he will leave when he's gone one day. Uniquely enough, he has a son with autism. And he has this vision of a community here in Orlando, a 500 room community for adults with autism where they live, work, and play. And the work aspect is interesting because the work aspect is an aspect where they can actually defer the cost of their care at this community. And he said, "Well, how can I create jobs for adults with autism that are more than just, a bagger at the grocery store?" A lot of adults with autism are drawn to technology, especially cell phones and tablets. His son, especially. So, with his technology background, he actually approached the big cell phone manufacturers, Samsung, Apple, and Google, and said, "I'd like to certify adults with autism to repair cell phones and tablets." And they were like, "Well, we have a certification process." And he said, "No, they can't pass that certification process. We'd like to rebuild that certification process specifically for adults with autism or special needs adults." And Samsung partnered with him, gave him the opportunity to actually rebuild their certification software. And through a company that he founded called Tectonic, they developed it actually open source and created a process to certify special needs adults to repair cell phones and tablets. It actually has micro certifications, so they can get a full certification and they can work at Ubreak, iFix, or Best Buy's Geek Squad, or they can get micro certifications. And in a place like Jonathan's Landing, the 500-room community, 5 adults with autism that have the micro certifications to repair the whole cell phone or tablet can actually work together to repair cell phones and tablets that then can be sold and generate profit to support Jonathan's Landing. It is an absolute amazing, full circle idea that he had, that he has not just, thought this idea, but he's put it into practice.
Well, it's
And,
more than a circle because so with autistic children, it's one thing being a child, to becoming a contributing adult is another thing, and
it's
that's the
huge,
fear that most parents have. It's what's going to happen to my child when I'm not here or if
100%.
something happens to me. And there has to
Yes,
be also that self-worth and autonomy. This isn't the old days
very
where you
much.
lock people in basements, right? So
That's right.
kudos to your an investor there. I just want to go back a step. So you had Apple, Samsung. Apple didn't want to step up. None of the other. It was Samsung that stepped up.
So I want to be careful not to
Well, you
categorize
don't want to get
Apple or
sued, but I
Apple or
can say
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Samsung took the opportunity to partner with Jason. That's what we want to focus on. And
Okay.
Jason has high hopes that, frankly, that Apple and Google will see what Samsung has done and jump on the bandwagon. It's exciting to see because it's the company's actually making money, and the first adults with autism that are certified technicians have now been working in the community for over 6 months, and so it's phenomenal.
Your grandfather has taught you well, young man, to curb your tongue and be respectful because I'm 2 sentences ahead of my brain, but on this occasion, I'll pull it back and not say
No,
anything.
absolutely.
Let's go back. So there was when you and I were talking earlier,
Yes,
is it
sir.
LG as the manufacturer that
Yeah, LG is.
every 3 years trades in all their electronics? Tell me about that. Let's unpack that a
Yeah.
bit.
If I may step back just one more second here, the International Builder Show is the second largest trade show in the United States. Over 100,000 people will come to this show over 3 days. And there's one show home that is built for this show every year to showcase all of the new product in the United States. That being said, we recognized an opportunity to showcase all of this product. And Jason, as we were in talks with them for this home to be the show home for the International Builder Show in Orlando in February, Jason literally at dinner one night, talking to him about it afterwards, he said, "It was just an inspiration that hit me, and I felt like I had to say it." And Jason, the executive director of the International Builder Show, was down, and we were talking about the home that we were building being the show home. And Jason said, "What if I donated all product that was given to the home to charity?" And the conversation at the table just stopped. Prior to this year, there's always been about $1.5 million of product donated to the home to showcase at the International Builder Show. That's a big donation in and of itself. The executive director said, "Will you put that in writing?" And Jason said, "Yes." We left dinner and Jason said, "Have something drafted up and I'll sign it." And I did. he signed it, we sent it off. And so I think that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for being chosen as the builder and the home to represent the International Builder Show and KBIZ in February. What has happened after that is the real story, because as the story of Jonathan's Landing gets out and companies realize what Jason is doing, as we've gone and met with LG, with Kohler, with Sherwin-Williams, with Cosentino, as these companies have realized what is happening with this home, that all of this product is being donated to charity that's given to the home, it has just engendered extreme support. And we're now about to cross the $3 million mark in total product given to the home. On top of that, as we've met with these companies, we were sitting down in Kohler, Wisconsin with Kohler, and Kohler said, "We love this vision. Every 3 years, we actually upgrade all of our electronics for 35,000 employees. What if we donated those 35,000 devices to Jonathan's Landing?" And Jason is, I mean, the answer is obviously yes, right away. Kohler has been one of the foremost companies in this partnership that has really seen the vision of this. They actually have events where they seek to support community efforts and different groups in improving lives of people across all economic, socioeconomic, racial, everything. And they said, what if we took this one further? What if we had a device drive for a year with Kohler and these events that we have? Because let's be honest, our business devices aren't the only devices that we all own. We all upgrade our devices every 1 to 5 years, and we have every one of us, I guarantee you, has something sitting around at home that we could donate, right? An old product that we don't use anymore. They use them to train the adults with autism when they're getting their certification. And then some products may be new enough that they could actually repair and sell to generate income. Kohler is in talks with Jonathan's Landing to actually have device drives that people could bring in their old devices and also donate them to Jonathan's Landing in this process.
So Daniel, how does that work? So are they going to set up kind of like an online retail store, like at 30,000 devices,
Right,
and you've got
right.
500 people? Like suddenly, I just see this backlog of stuff.
Jonathan's Landing and Tectonic actually have just initiated a 1,000,000 device drive. And so they want to actually have 1,000,000 devices donated because their vision is bigger than just Jonathan's Landing in Orlando and the people that will work there. Their vision is, as I said before, that the training software was created open source. And so they won't charge for it. 1 in every 30 children born in the United States has autism. And that's just scratching the surface. On a side note, my business partner has a son with autism, and I have a son that has Down syndrome. When you're in a group of people and you ask people to raise their hand, do they know somebody with special needs? Almost every hand goes up. We don't realize how many people that we know. And Jason's vision is that this product could be transmitted across the United States and frankly across the world to train adults with autism in something that's not going away. We're going to have devices for a very long time in our society. And this could be an area that, these adults with autism or anyone else could be trained in that can create lifelong careers for them where they wouldn't have had that opportunity before. That drive and those numbers won't just support those 500 people at Jonathan's Landing. The idea is that it'll support the training of adults with autism across the United States.
Do you ever find yourself again as you're driving around in your Denali that you have to pinch yourself because as you've unpacked this again, rant farmer, well, a cattle guy, a cowboy, call it what it is, Florida
okay.
cowboy,
Yeah.
right? Financier, home
Right.
builder, custom. Alair steps in. If that relationship between you and Alair hadn't taken place, how would have this unfolded, or would it have unfolded? Because it seems like you were a crucial linchpin in all this manifesting.
The way that I think Alair benefited me to give me the opportunity to be where I'm at now is Alair allowed me to scale in a short amount of time. We joined the Alair network in 2017. And over the 8 years after we joined the Alair network, it really allowed me to scale my business from my business partner and I with one project manager to my business partner and I with 5 project managers, office staff, and a back end that we weren't trying to, hire a CPA and find a project management software that could interact with QuickBooks and Builder Trend or any of the other. There's a ton of softwares out there that you can use, but none of them truly integrate with each other. And so the pressure that took off of me to integrate my project management and my accounting and allow me and my business partner to focus on the actual growing of the business and training our project managers and focusing on our clients was integral in growing to the size where Jason frankly felt comfortable with us building a house of this size and where the National Home Builders Association felt comfortable partnering with us to build a house of this size for the second largest trade show in the United States. I mean, absolutely. There were many integral parts in it, but Alair, from that perspective, was definitely integral in giving this opportunity to us.
When you talk about the scaling and the growth that you're anticipating,
Mhm.
is there an exit plan?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the great things about Alair is that it's not Kennerly construction. People in Orlando, people in Toronto, in Greenville, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Salt Lake City, they see Alair. We actually had a client that came to us that was had built a home with the Alair partner in Salt Lake City and came to Orlando and knocked on our door one day and said, I want to build a custom home. I built one with Alair in Salt Lake City. I want to build one with Alair in Orlando because the process was so amazing. When it's your name on the company, if I'm Joe Smith and the company says, you know, Jones Construction, they're like, where's Jones? you know, when it's a company that the company name is known, it doesn't matter who Daniel Kennerly is. Most construction companies, when the business owner decides that he wants to retire, they just close the company. Well, that's a miserable exit plan because you've built a value there, but the value is all in you. And so, what I love about Alair and what we're doing with building the Alair name in Orlando and across the United States is that the value is not in me, the value is in Alair. So, at the end of the day, when I want to retire or I want to move into a different phase of life, I can potentially sell the company that I have built in Orlando to another contractor. Potentially, I have a couple of project managers that want to take over the business. Well, there's a huge intrinsic value in Alair and that people know Alair in Orlando instead of just knowing me personally. Because if I'm gone, the company doesn't
You've got a
fail.
McDonald's. So I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you have a
Understood.
franchise like a McDonald's that has systems in place.
That's right.
And when you spoke about some builders, when they get ready to retire, the business just dies because they don't have somebody to
That's
take
right.
over. But what is it that they're trying to sell? They've got equipment, maybe they've got goodwill, but if they don't
That's
have the
right.
systems in place that it runs without them, they really don't have
Mhm.
anything to sell. So
That's exactly
kudos to
right.
you, like almost by default, man, that you've stumbled in. You followed the golden path, if you will, to Oz, and there is that vision at the end of the path there.
There totally is, and I mean, I love building, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. But to be honest, in 20 years, I would love to be at a place where I can pull back, and maybe I'm still in a layer, and maybe I'm a 10% owner, and I have partners that have mostly bought me out of the business, and I can spend time with my grandkids and my kids, and I can be taking them on trips, and that type of thing. Like I do want an exit plan. It's crazy that we don't think about an exit plan if we own a business because we're going to get older and there has to be one. And I don't want it to be, I close the business.
Yeah, the trap is working in the business and not on the business, that you can never see
Exactly.
outside it to make it all happen. Let's double back here for a second because we really didn't unpack the new American home. And when I was looking
yes.
into this, this is like, Kennedy sending the man to the moon. When I looked at some of the specs, I thought, all right, let's sit down and how outrageous of a home can we build with no limitation? Like some of the stuff that you're doing is just, I don't want to say beyond imagination. What are give us some of the points? Like you mentioned
Yeah,
the big
absolutely.
basement, 13-foot basement, but
Right.
you've got an elevator, car
Yes.
pulls up, elevator into the basement. You've got a
yes.
carousel. This is like out of James Bond, man.
It is, it is. The lot is a large lot, but it's long, and because of the positioning of the house, we couldn't create a driveway long enough that, frankly, sports cars would not scrape at the top and bottom of the driveway going into the basement, and so the question was, how do we alleviate that? After some discussion and research, the only way to alleviate that is to lower them down into the garage, and so, well, we're in America and they make something for everything. There are car elevators, car lifts. You're in a basement where you can store 16 cars. How do you turn cars around in the basement? Well, you don't want to be doing an 18-point turn in the basement. So, of course, you find a car turntable and you have all of this space in the basement. So, why not put in a game room and a movie theater and a gym and wellness center in the basement as well? As I said before, the partners that we have in this, LG and their electronics, the theater is going to be phenomenal. Kohler, their wellness, sauna, cold plunge, steam showers. We have all kinds of different products and companies that have contributed to this house. Costantino is a big supplier of stone, and their product called Decton, it has a lot of the cladding on the exterior of the house and the floors inside the house. View Rail is a really unique, they're a high-end railing and stair manufacturer. They're showcasing a new set of stairs that they have never built before in the house, all lighted. Their railings are glass railings that are integrated into the floors. This was an important project for them to participate in because in their factory, they have something called the pit crew. The pit crew in ViewRail's factory are special needs people from the community that they give jobs to, that they train on in their factory so that they have an ability to earn. They were like, we love the vision of Jonathan's Landing, and so we can't wait to be a part of the New American Home for the International Builder Show in 2026. And that's just scratching the surface. We have almost 60 vendors that are partners in this house. And as I said before, $3 million of product contributed. It has been phenomenal, from car lifts, turntables, elevators, flooring, wall systems, tongue and groove, electronics, flooring, you name it.
Well,
Like,
even the mechanical challenges here, like, what is it about 13 feet in the ground in Florida in the same sentence? So
oh,
even that must have been a nightmare. What's the engineering involved around it not flooding
so
out?
yeah, there's amazing. A company called Trimco helped us design the waterproofing for the basement of this house. Now, we have a unique aspect. We're on a lake. In Florida, there are some hills on the edge of a lake sometimes, just how the topography runs. And when I say a hill, let me be clear, it's only 21 feet above the lake. It's a hill is probably, the rest of the United States says that's not a hill. But the lake artificially keeps the water level in a small elevation around the lake down. And so our elevation above the lake is 21 feet, but our water level below elevation is 17 feet. And so our footers are actually in the water table for the house, but our basement floor is not in the water table. Now, that didn't mean that we couldn't waterproof. We used a product called Amphibia from Trimco. The entire basement, floor and up the walls, is completely waterproofed. There's drain tiles around the side, which means that the water pressure will hit the wall, flow down the wall, and then into a drain that's daylighted out the back of the house ground level. And so the idea is to keep all of the hydrostatic, both the vertical and horizontal water pressures, away from the floor and walls of the basement so that we have a basement that stays dry. Now, we do have all of that. We also have 5 different sump pumps in different spaces in the basement just in case it were to flood. You can imagine, if you're building a house of this size that can house that many cars, they're not going to be jalopies. You want to make sure that they don't ever flood. And so we do have some redundancy to make sure that should water ever get into the house, it can be pumped out quickly.
It's safe to say it's worth the price of admission just to go to the IBS
Yes,
to see this, and it will be on display. People can tour
it
it,
will.
correct?
Yes, the tours are, if you're coming to IBS, the tours are free. Buses are running all 3 days from the time the show starts, from basically from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Tours are running every day, all day long. And
So
so,
is it done now, Daniel? It's actually completed?
no, no, that's a great question, Michael. We
Oh,
actually
now
have
I
to
get
have
it.
the
You get to
house.
see the whole. Okay, now I see how
Yes.
this works. Okay, yeah.
We actually have to have the house finished in November. And so we're about 60 days out from pictures for the publicity to advertise the house and show in February. A house this big being built in less than 18 months is just an immense undertaking. My business partner is pretty much on site every single day. We have 2 full-time project managers dedicated to the job as well as office staff. I mean, we are running 2 crews every single day and working most weekends to finish this project in time for the show.
Well, this is your legacy project,
It
obviously,
is.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
your name's on. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this: of all the things that you've done, I mean, it's unprecedented. The kind of home being built in Florida.
Thank you.
If we look 5 years into the future, is there anything
Mhm.
that you've incorporated now that you could consider cutting edge that would be embraced as being standard 5 years from now?
Absolutely. Some of the technology, how the technology is incorporating into the products that are going in the home. One of the neatest things is a very small incorporation into the home. When I was a senior in Florida, Disney World allows all seniors for grad night to come to Disney World. They offer it to all seniors in the state of Florida. Really neat product. We went to Epcot and I went through Tomorrowland and I saw this glass that you could press a button and the glass went from clear to opaque. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, will we actually see that one day? That was 27 years ago. It took so long for that product to come to market. But the garage doors that we're putting in this house are literally electronic glass that are clear. And with the press of a button or on your cell phone or an app, they can go completely opaque. So there are products like that that we're getting to showcase. A small company has created this power source that goes under countertops. That power source can charge your phone if you just set your phone down on the countertop. But they're debuting a new product at IBS that can actually charge your computer, not just your cell phone. And they have a third generation product that they say will produce enough power to charge your blender or your toaster in your kitchen. So no cords anymore. You literally your blender, your toaster, your mixer will sit on the countertop and you just press run and there's not a cord to wrap up or find where the outlet is anymore. There are so many of these products. The cold plunge, the sauna, a fully incorporated thing that goes into your gym. Right now, these are extremely expensive products. But as we have seen with technology, what's expensive today in 5 years is affordable to everyone. And so I look at these products and, people say, well, only someone really wealthy can afford those products. And what I like to say is we have the unique opportunity to showcase these products at the International Builder Show, but give it 5 years and each one of us will be able to put these products in our house,
Yeah, I'd like to
and
say
so
God bless the millionaires because using the flat screen TVs as an example, it was
great
like
example.
1 in 30 actually worked, right? But you have
Mhm.
the guys that could afford it. Maybe at the time they were what, like $8,000, $9,000 for a flat
Right.
screen.
Right.
But if it wasn't for them buying it first, and then the manufacturer being able to get that proof of concept dialed in, it was the economies of scale that brought the prices down. So I'll bet you stuff that we're going
Yes.
right now, like holy jumping, it will be commonplace in 5 years.
I mean, you can go in your local big box store and get a 65-inch flat screen for under $500, and the picture is phenomenal. Like, let's be honest, like, who doesn't have one? It's amazing who has those TVs
Yeah.
in their homes now.
Well,
So,
let's bring this in for a landing, young man. I want to be
yes, sir.
respectful of your time. I want to ask a question of you. From what I've gathered
Absolutely.
being with you so far and
Mhm.
the rapport that we've been able to create, you strike me as being a very thoughtful, uh, I don't want to say spiritual. I detect that you're a very religious man as well. Family
I
probably
am.
means a lot to you.
Faith and family drive my life.
So, what's the impact on that? Because some people are so embarrassed to acknowledge that they have a faith, that they have a belief in God. It's almost like sex, politics, religion. You can't talk about those
Right.
things, right?
Absolutely.
But let's tap into
Um,
this one because I detect that this
yeah.
is like a core of who you are.
While I don't try to inject my faith into everything that I do and verbally, so to say, because if you get too preachy, people will turn you off and they'll marginalize you and they'll dismiss you. But St. Augustine of Assisi said, preach daily and when necessary, use words. So my faith is a Christian faith. I believe in the Bible and God, but I don't believe that I have to hit anybody over the head with that. I believe if they see it lived out in me, they will potentially ask me questions about it. Or when they find out, that, faith is really important to me. They will see potentially how I treat my wife, how I raise my sons. They'll go, "Oh, what's different about him?" And I hope that that's what they see. Now, I am as normal as everyone else. I get mad and angry and frustrated and, I make mistakes, but I would hope that they see the integrity and the work ethic and the faith and the morality that I have come through in that, and that I don't let those things define me, but that I apologize, that I seek forgiveness, and that I try to do better as I move forward. I don't think that being a Christian, being a business owner, being a contractor is about being perfect. I think it's about doing your best every day, owning up to your mistakes, and seeking to do better every time and learn from where you've been.
It's humble to say that you're a work in progress, I think
Oh,
is what it comes down to.
I
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I think I will be a work in progress until the day I die.
The first interview I did was a gentleman named Jim Lawler Construction, and they're out of Arizona. I think Cottonwood. He'll strike me down for that, but Arizona. And like you, a man of strong faith. And I asked him the question. I'll ask you the same one. Was there ever a moment from where you started to where you are now when you thought, like, what am I thinking? What are we doing? Was there ever that challenge when you thought, you know what, I'm done. I just have to surrender. Jim did that, and he said it came to a point where I just surrendered and I said, "God, it's in your hands." Now, I jokingly kidded him. I said, "Yes, Jesus
No.
was a carpenter, but he's not going
Yeah.
to show up and start building homes for you." But
Right, right.
did you have a moment like that, like an epiphany, where it was all up to faith?
I would say I definitely did. When I truly recognized what I wanted to do, and it wasn't to build a company, it wasn't to create a certain size bank account at the end of what I did. Like, I recognized that I really, because you can get frustrated in this industry so much. You can get frustrated by subcontractors, by a client that no matter what you do, nothing is right. It doesn't matter if you've done everything right and tried to be as honest as the day is long. And a couple years ago, it had gotten really hard. We had had a couple of hard projects and a client that was really difficult. I came to a point where I really questioned, am I where I should be? I told my wife and we talked about it and talked about it. And I came to realize that my worth in life was not about how big my bank account was, how nice a home that I had built for someone, how I was viewed in the community. My worth in life came from recognizing just my value as a person and how I could pour into others and multiply what I knew to be true about myself. And frankly, my faith is the foundation of that. Like, I find my value in my belief that, frankly, I'm redeemed by Jesus Christ. And I enjoy so much the subcontractors that I work with and that I get to pour into, the employees that I get to lead in this company, the clients that I get to befriend and create their dreams and their visions. In my life, it's lived out through a construction company right now, but that doesn't define me. That's not who I am. It was interesting. It's like you have to come to that crisis to really recognize who you are and what you want to do. But then when you come out of that, it makes you understand that the decisions that you make are held to a different standard. And if sometimes you have to make hard decisions, you make them knowing that they're the right decisions, maybe not financially, maybe not, relationally, but you're making it because it's the decision that defines you. It has been a lot easier since that point to make decisions that affect which direction either I'm or my company is going, irrespective of the fact of what it will mean for me financially or relationally.
Yeah, I think you have to be tempered in that fire.
You do.
That's where you discover really who you are. I've landing gears coming down, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Circling there. I got one more, and you triggered this, so I'm going to throw it at you.
Okay.
I want you to pretend, and this is many, many decades in the future,
Yeah.
many, many decades in the future. You find yourself standing at St. Peter's Gate,
Mhm.
and St. Peter's got an iPad because it's innovative, right? So, and he says, Daniel, come on over here, come on over, and he's scrolling through. your life story is on this iPad. And,
That's right.
he's showing you there's this, oh, that's okay. But he keeps scrolling through.
Mhm.
And then he looks at you and he says, Daniel, no, you're not getting in, not today. There's something you haven't done yet. What's that one thing?
Oh, wow. It's a great question, Michael. So many things are running through my head. I don't think I truly it's interesting because I wake up every morning and I journal. And last week, someone broke into my vehicle and stole my briefcase that had my computer in it and it had work stuff, but it also had my personal journal in it. I reported it and actually ended up getting my bag back without the computer and electronics and work things in there. But the thing that was left in my bag was my journal. And interestingly enough, waiting for the police officer to come to report the burglary and theft and whatnot, I said, I don't care about the electronics, the cost of anything that was in there. That journal means so much to me. About 6 months ago, I started writing. I have 4 sons, 14, 11, 7, and 2. And about 6 months ago, something that I heard triggered a desire to pass something on to my sons. And I started writing in the quiet time that I have in the morning. A couple times a week, I started writing basically letters or devotions to my sons. As I thought about what do I value in life, I thought the thing that I can't get back is what I pass on, what I have been writing about that I want to pass on to my sons. What I have not accomplished at this point that I think I would like to is I would like to create a book that obviously I'm writing to my sons, but some of the most unique things that I think I've learned from is men or women in the past that have created something like that. And most of the time, they didn't write it to the general populace, right? They wrote it to pass on wisdom to their children or to their friend or to somebody like that, to their wife, potentially, how they loved their wife or something like that. And I think I would love to complete that. It was interesting last week when that happened. It made me realize, not that I didn't realize it before, but it brought it to the forefront of my mind what I really value in life. And the thing I value in life is not this, is not what we, build or how big your bank account becomes or anything like that. It's what I'm able to teach and impart to the people that I will have the most impact on in my life, which are my sons. I want to look back at the end of my life and say, I raised phenomenal men. And I don't have daughters, I just have sons. So that's where my focus lies. But I would, if I don't create it and St. Peter asked me that question, I would say I would love to finish that book to my sons. That would be what I would like to create and finish at the end of the day.
Get
So
busy, young man. Get it
that's
illustrated,
right.
get it done.
I know.
Daniel, I want to thank you for taking time out today. This to me was, I got to tell you, for a moment there, I was getting choked up. But yeah, very, very, very good conversation. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely, Michael. Anytime you want to talk, I'm around.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.